This felt like the appropriate sweatshirt to wear for the occasion, I think, for a video like this. I will say I'm kind of shocked I ever wore this in public. I was a teenager, but it does say top on the back, which I feel like devoid of context. Like, what exactly was I trying to advertise there? Hello, annyeonghaseyo. My name is Hannah, and this is Confessions of an Ex-Kpop Fan. So the other night, I was feeling nostalgic, as one might be, going through my old YouTube favorites, and there was a ton of K-pop videos on there, and I watched them, and I was just like, all of these memories came flooding back. And I remembered this YouTube channel, which, as you can see, hasn't been uploaded on in like 7-8 years at this point. And I also went back and watched a whole bunch of these videos for, again, nostalgia's sake. And it really put me in the state of reflection because in many ways, I am the same person, but in a lot of ways, I'm different, you know? That's how time works. That's how we grow as people. Like, I was in high school when I made these, and I have a master's in education now, and I'm a high school teacher. So, you know, growth. And I don't really listen to K-pop anymore, and I don't really watch K-dramas, but I still think like fandom and fandom culture, which is something that's always been important to me, is just as important now, if not more. I think the pandemic, like lockdown, put us through a lot. That was the era which I really doubled down on like these communities. I started writing my Star Trek fan fiction. I started like a D&D campaign, you know, like I was in the trenches. And I think the K-pop fandom just ended up not being a place for me in the long term, and I kind of want to talk about why that is. And that's not to shame anyone that's into it or got into it, you know, after I sort of had my heyday. Like, that's fine. You do you, boo. This is just my personal experiences with the fandom and everything surrounding it. And I really am thankful for the time that I spent within the K-pop community. I definitely have some fond memories. I remember being on vacation one time, right, sharing a hotel room with my entire family and waiting for like a Super Junior album to drop at midnight, and then like very like quietly, you know, listening to it in full because I was like so excited for it. I remember like burning K-pop mixtape like CDs for my friends, and we'd like jam out to it on our way from like the high school to the pool that I swam at for swim team. And then of course I remember making these videos with Katie. I think she's doing well. She does like photography now. It's great. So yeah, I just want to start out with some of those positive memories because that's what I really think fandom and community should do, is be a place for positivity and where your creativity can thrive. Another positive thing to come out of my time in K-pop is that I really did fall in love with the Korean language. I taught myself like how to read Hangul. I'm just like sort of working on like vocabulary and grammar and sentence structure and stuff right now. I have like a 120-day streak on Duolingo, so you know, pat on the back for me. Obviously that's not going to be like my only resource, but now that I'm like not in college anymore and have some more time, I do kind of want to take it on as my like independent study project, so to speak. I also think K-pop and K-drama was sort of like my avenue into the wealth of like international media that's out there. You know, if you have, I guess, the bravery to use subtitles. I remember when Parasite won the Oscar for Best Picture, and it was like this whole conversation about people being like, but I have to watch it with subtitles. And I was like, y'all are weak. Like, you don't know what you're missing out on. It's, you know, great, phenomenal film, by the way. Absolutely worth it. But yeah, I just think things like that. It introduced me to a lot of stuff. Like, I even use subtitles when I watch stuff in English nowadays. They're just nice. They're fun to have. Also, in terms of like international media that I'm into, my current sort of foreign media comfort blanket has been Danmei novels, which are stories usually published online in Chinese that feature sort of like gay romance at the center of it. And these past couple of years have seen an influx in like these works being officially licensed and published in English in actual print books. So I think readership has skyrocketed. Like, I just got introduced to them this year, and I've had an absolutely amazing time with these stories. My first intro into it was Heaven Official's Blessing, and I'm planning to cosplay Hua Chong, which is one of the characters, at the next convention that I go to. I also have Golden Terrace, which has been one of my favorite books I've read so far this year, like, regardless of genre. Later this year, we're going to be getting some of the official translations of Baihua novels, which is sort of like the sapphic lesbian equivalent of Danmei. It's kind of like the yaoi versus yuri thing that happens in Japanese media. And I've already pre-ordered a volume of that, and I am so excited for it. What if I just, like, revived this channel to talk about Danmei? That'd be kind of funny. But anyway, I'm getting a little off topic, because what we're here for is to talk about why I'm no longer in the K-pop fandom. I'm also starting to regret this wardrobe choice because it is literally like 85 degrees here right now, and I do not have AC, so I might have to do a wardrobe change at some point. But as for reason number one why I'm no longer in the K-pop fandom was, first of all, I was getting very disillusioned with the K-pop industry, specifically like record labels and how they treat their employees. I've always been two things: a very justice-minded person and someone who really, really believes in like financial compensation for the arts and for artists. Like the fact that we have, you know, arts programs that get cut all the time and all that. It makes my blood boil, if you will. And obviously, like, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. I'm not saying that, like, the K-pop industry is the only place where artists get exploited. We've seen that time and time again in, like, US and UK record companies, right? With, like, for example, like Prince getting locked into his record contract and then like protesting it, and then you have like Taylor Swift more recently like choosing to re-record all of her own master copies because her record label won't let her have them. So it's not like abuse of musicians is not specifically a South Korean problem, but it does feel like very prevalent in the K-pop industry, especially with like these slave contracts and the way that, you know, they're literally like teenagers when they sign on to these things. And having been a teenager and also working with teenagers, I know like those brains are not fully developed. Like, you do not know what you're sort of signing away your life for, and it seems like a very high risk, low reward situation, and also doesn't allow for a lot of creative expression, in my opinion. Reason number two sort of piggybacks off of reason number one, and that is that Jonghyun's death hit me really hard. So if you didn't know, Kim Jong-hyun was a member of SHINee, and on December 18th, 2017, he committed suicide at the age of 27, and a lot of his like notes and last messages that he sent out seemed to indicate a lot of depression and sort of like this immense pressure that came with fame. And that whole situation was just immensely heartbreaking to me, not just for, you know, the loss of life, which is obviously, you know, the most paramount issue, but the fact that I really felt like Jonghyun stood out in a lot of ways from other K-pop artists, in the sense that I really felt like he deserved that title of artist. He did a lot of like production and composing and songwriting for SHINee and, you know, for other people in a way that not a lot of K-pop idols tend to do. He was just like talented. His work was unique. He was gifted. He had a wonderful voice, and to see like an industry just beat down on someone like that it put a very sour taste in my mouth, to say the least. And you can see like the very last video I uploaded on this channel was like before all that happened, and then I like didn't really upload again after that. It was nauseating, I guess, is the way to explain it. And I know this is not like an isolated incident, and once again, I know like this kind of thing happens in the US as well, but it left me feeling really gross. Okay, I did go for a wardrobe change because I could not handle the sweatshirt. But I think the point has been made. I will always be very sad about what happened to Jonghyun, and like, you know, I mourn him, and I mourn sort of the lost potential and, you know, what could have been. I guess, you know. And again, my condolences always go out to his family and his fellow members of SHINee, who I could not imagine. And the fact that like they still perform, you know, and they still sing those songs, like I commend them for that, because I think that would be really, really hard to do. And I know there's plenty of musicians that have been in similar spots that aren't able to continue. And I understand, but yeah, just that whole situation. Reason number 3, like why I'm not so active in K-pop anymore, is that I primarily consume queer media these days. And K-pop is like not really that. At least it really wasn't, like, you know, about a decade ago when I was super involved. I have sort of done a little bit of Googling and seen that there are some like out K-pop stars now, but it seems like, you know, it's very far and few in between, and they do, you know, face a lot of discrimination for that. South Korea is pretty conservative when it comes to issues of like the LGBT community, and so are many places in the US, don't get me wrong. I think that all comes down to the fact that the United States had a very like active role in shaping what kind of a country South Korea became. This is not a history lesson, but Google it on your own free time. So because of that, right, there's still a lot of like stigma around that, and you can usually tell when that's the case in a certain country based on their media. I do remember one K-drama that I watched having like a gay side character. It might have been Secret Garden, actually. It might have been Secret Garden. I don't remember anything. But, you know, I never watched anything where like queerness was the center of it. And to be fair, I wasn't like seeking it out, okay? I was a high schooler, deeply in the closet. I was not seeking out queer media in the way that I do today. So I'm sure there was some that existed, it just was never like presented to me. I have heard there's a lot of queer Asian dramas now, maybe not necessarily Korean ones, but I've heard there's like a lot of Thai ones. So if there ever was something that would suck me back in, so to speak, it would probably be that. And the 4th and final reason why I don't really engage with the K-pop fandom anymore, or really any fandom that primarily focuses around like real people rather than fictional characters, is my increasing awareness of the dangers of parasocial relationships. If you don't know what a parasocial relationship is, it's basically one where you might know a lot about this person because you've watched lots of videos on them, or you follow their social media and all this stuff. You're just very invested in this person. But obviously they don't know anything about you because you're a stranger and you're just watching them through a screen. And so you might sort of develop this one-sided relationship with this person where you think you know a lot about them. And it can, I think, be the cause of a lot of disappointment. And as we've talked about with like, as I've talked about in the past with like Sasang fans and like, you know, people who literally stalk people, I think that's sort of like a parasocial relationship taken to the extreme. I don't think most people operate in that realm, but the thing about parasocial relationships is like you think you know this person, like they're your friend, but they're not, and you can't predict how they're going to act or what they're going to do. And so if you invest like this sort of emotional energy into them, you are only going to be disappointed, because like putting them on this pedestal and thinking that you know this person only for them to turn around and do something that maybe you don't approve of, you know, I don't think it allows them the chance to be human, because we're all human and we all make mistakes, but it doesn't really give respect to their humanity, and you're just like setting yourself up for disappointment. Like celebrity worship in general is just going to set you up for disappointment, because these are like real people, but obviously they're sort of, you know, everyone's online presence, mine included, you're sort of setting up a character. You're setting up a front in a lot of ways. Even if you don't think you're doing it, you're doing something, right? You want to get something out of this. And so this parasocial relationship you have is only with that version of that person. I hope I'm making sense with all of this. There's been people way smarter than me that have made videos on this, so if you're confused about what I mean by parasocial relationships, you can find one of those. But anyway, and I just think the K-pop fandom is sort of like a ripe breeding ground for that sort of like dangerous relationship, in my opinion. So basically all the fandom stuff that I engage with now is primarily with fictional characters, or if I am going to, you know, enjoy a certain celebrity from afar, my personal favorites tend to be the ones with like little to no social media presence whatsoever, you know? Because sometimes, like, I don't want to know all your business. But yeah, I just, real people fandoms in general, regardless of, you know, not just K-pop, but any sort of like real person situation, it's not worth it in the end. So yeah, that's all I have for you. I don't know if anyone even cares about this video, because it literally has been 7 years since either of us have uploaded on this channel. But I was just feeling like nostalgia, and I felt like I just wanted to like talk about this. So yeah, I guess like this video if you like it, comment down below if you have any comments, and I don't know if I'll ever see you again or not, but I guess we'll see. Goodbye.